Welcome to the Heal Yourself podcast, where we dive deep into all things healing. I'm Denise, a speech language pathologist and a self-love coach for adults and teens.
And I'm Kira, a traditional naturopath and functional nutritionist, and we are here to guide you through the transformative process of healing your body, mind, and soul.
From the latest in functional medicine to nurturing your relationship with yourself, healing trauma, and even transforming your money story, we're here to empower you with the knowledge and tools to create lasting change.
So whether you're looking to heal physically, emotionally, or spiritually, join us as we explore the many paths to wholeness and wellness. Welcome back for another episode. And today, Denise and I are chatting all about emotions. I'm going to say this every episode, but I love talking about this. Just because, right? I really am. Emotions are just energy and motion, and they have to move through us. And when we look around us, there's a lot of people suppressing emotions. I mean, Denise, I'm sure you can relate. You know, it's something that all of us deal with, but
we all do. We all have, and we still do.
We do. It's a work in progress. That's why we say healing is the journey. Like there's not an end. But suppressing those emotions over and over and over leads to a buildup of energy in the body. And then we start getting gut issues, hormone issues, like all the things. And that's why I think it's so important that we have this conversation today, because many people just ignore emotions, right? Or they let them pop up or they suppress them, but they don't know how to move through them appropriately. So we're going to talk about that. The other thing
we analyze them way, or we analyze them way more than we need to.
Yeah.
Like we get into the story of analyzing the emotion. Like, why am I feeling this way? What's going on? Da, da, da.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. Well, and the body doesn't know the difference between like real life and a thought, which is so crazy. The first time I heard that, I'm like, what do you mean the body doesn't know the difference? But it doesn't. So if you're consistently getting yourself into an emotional state that's not serving you, the body's going to put itself in fight or flight or freeze because it doesn't know the difference between real and imaginary. And that's where it goes back to The Body Keeps the Score. That's the name of a book, which we highly recommend, but it's also a good reminder, the body is keeping the score. It's not just the physical things that you're doing to it. It's those emotions that have either run rogue or you're suppressing or you're, like Denise said, overanalyzing, and the body is keeping the score. Those things store in the body.
Yeah. I mean, because everything is energy. Where are they going to go? They're going to go somewhere. If you don't express them healthfully, they're going to go somewhere. So, according to traditional Chinese medicine, each negative emotion gets stored in an organ. So we really wanted you to know, so you kind of are more aware. And later on, how we're going to give you a tip how to, some ways to move those emotions. So for example, anger is stored in the liver. Okay, so every time you are angry and overly angry and you're suppressing it. So we're talking about suppressing, not like, expressing. So anger is stored in the liver and it's associated with frustration, irritability, and rage. And what does it do? It leads to headaches or high blood pressure.
And I'm going to chime in here because I knew this one just because I don't even think I shared my husband's story, and I won't right now, but he was diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis years and years and years ago. And that's when I started looking at alternative medicine also. And I was like, anger. And it was so true. There was a lot of anger that was just, again, I'm going to use the term running rogue. It's not that he just had a moment where he got angry. That's fine. You want to feel that emotion. But when you're sitting in it, when that anger has not been resolved and you're holding on to it for years or for decades, it's storing somewhere. And I do firmly believe that was a big driver behind his autoimmune hepatitis diagnosis. And yes, we did stuff from a nutrition and a functional medicine standpoint, but he also started getting into that, Chinese medicine and worked with someone to release anger, and his autoimmune disease has been in remission ever since. So just throwing that one in there.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, and we've talked about it in the previous episode, self-love is the foundation of healing, and self-love requires you to look at those emotions and what am I holding on to and what is serving me? Do I really need to hold on to this anger for this long?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Wow.
Okay, give us more.
That's a
Give us
powerful
more.
one. Yeah, more. All right. So, grief and sadness, they're stored in the lungs. So we're talking again, grief and prolonged sadness, like you said, prolonged anger that you keep harboring, that you keep dwelling, that you keep it keeps running road, and then it can obviously because it's stored in the lungs, it weakens the respiratory system, and it can cause things like asthma and chronic fatigue. So that's grief and sadness. Fear is stored in the kidney. Okay, chronic fear, right? Constantly being afraid. We're not talking about like you're afraid of something and then, here and there.
Yeah.
Again, every time we're talking about those emotions, it's the chronic that you consistently hold on to. And what does it do? It weakens the kidneys, obviously. And it is also linked to willpower, believe it or not. So again, fear, it is stored in the kidneys. What is it going to lead to? Adrenal issues,
Ooh,
urinary
ladies.
problems, or lower back pain. Aha.
I know, I'm
There
like
we go.
adrenals. We always hear adrenal fatigue, and maybe we'll do an episode on that one day, but I think that's huge. There's a fear piece. And I'm also going to chime in here too. And I don't know traditional Chinese medicine in terms of the fear piece, but I will say just in my research also in other aspects, fear also just is linked to digestive issues. So, I mean, kidney is, I'm just going to say gut issues in general. Fear can be a big one there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Worry and overthinking, that's me. And I remember when I started doing acupuncture, she would tell me spleen, spleen, spleen. So
Oh.
worry and overthinking, yep, and she would see it from my tongue. Is stored in the spleen. Excessive worry and overthinking affects the spleen, which is responsible for digestion and nourishment. What does it lead to? Again, digestive problems, fatigue, or poor appetite. So by now, if you do have digestive issues, we do recommend that you definitely listen to this episode and see how you can navigate and heal some of those emotions. I feel a repetitive pattern happening here.
You know what? That's
So
interesting.
shock.
Sorry. I'm just going to interrupt you, but it's interesting to think about that too, because it can be one or the other. Like I've never been a worrier, but let me tell you, I've been an overthinker probably coming out of the womb. So that makes sense with digestive issues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, sorry, go.
So no, don't be. You're good. That's the thing. That's our podcast, right? It's a conversation. You can stop and I can interrupt you. So shock is stored in the heart and the kidneys. It can disturb the heart rhythm, and it can lead to anxiety, and so it can lead to anxiety. So that's constantly being shocked, and then perceiving everything as a shock.
And I'm chiming in again, sorry, but not even just constantly. For something like shock, it can be a really traumatic event. And I think that's important for us to point out too. Like, yes, sometimes these emotions, if you continue to feel them, but if it's a profound one like shock, and I'm talking like what happened in North Carolina with the hurricane, right?
Yes.
That is shock for some people because they're still living in that state, or like a really bad car accident. So thinking through that too, and we'll talk about this a little more, but I just wanted to point that out, and I'll shut up.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for saying that. And sometimes I forget, but yeah, absolutely, it is the trauma, or like for example, people living in the war. That's trauma. Fear of the future is stored in the heart. When we constantly are anxious about the future, constantly afraid of about what's going to happen in the future, that is basically considered chronic anxiety about what's going to happen. And it leads to insomnia, restlessness, and heart palpitations. So as you can see, according to traditional Chinese medicine, that those negative emotions that we harbor get stored in the body. Again, please read the book, The Body Keeps the Score. And it's time to move the stagnant emotions that you actually don't need anymore. So Yes, sometimes emotions are negative, and that is okay. So I think we have a misconception of like all of our emotions need to be positive. But again, not everything is unicorn and rainbows and daisies, right? So I mean, we're human beings. We have an array of emotions, and we shouldn't just constantly like, oh my goodness, what? And that was me because I was leading this. I was on this spiritual journey. Like, why am I feeling negative emotions? But negative emotions are telling you something. They're opportunities for us to learn. So, I mean, it's a choice, right? So, for example, you can be pissed off at your significant other about something, or you can choose to remain angry and then ruin your day and give away all of your power to this one incident, or you can be like, let it go. And I know we're going to talk about the power of the now in a future episode, but just letting it go means, yes, I am angry at this moment about this incident, but I'm choosing to let it go. It's a choice at the end of the day, right? So
And it's a
you can choose
powerful
to keep those
choice.
emotions going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the
And you know
thing.
what really helps me though? You know what really helps me is that giving my power away. I'm like, you know what? I need that power. I need it to last me all freaking day. So
Yeah.
why am I giving it away for stupid shit?
Yeah. Well,
You
and that's
got
what
me
I
all
was gonna
excited now.
I was gonna say too, like sometimes we get in the, well, I want to stay mad because they were in the wrong. Okay, but
Yeah.
is that gonna change anything? Like what is that doing for you staying angry at that person just because you feel right? It's a control issue. And maybe that's another episode, but
Absolutely.
it's not worth
Absolutely.
it. It's not worth
And what does Wayne Dyer say, our favorite? What does he
Mm,
say? Would you rather be happy or right?
yeah.
Dude, I'd rather be happy. I don't give a shit about. I used to. It was
Yeah.
me being right, 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 wanting to be right. But honestly, when you let that go and you choose to be happy, screw it. I don't care about
Yeah.
being right or wrong.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about
All right. Yeah.
moving some of this and
Tips.
what it means. So first thing, you kind of touched on it, but I want to point out that feeling emotions isn't weak, right? Like it's
Mm-mm.
okay to feel sadness. It's okay to feel frustration and anger and all of the things. Like we should have, you mentioned an array of emotions, like it's a rainbow, right? The issue is when people start suppressing those emotions. They start pushing them down. They don't want to deal with them. Something's too painful, right? Like something traumatic happens, the loss of a loved one, and it's like, I'm not going to deal with it. I want to move on. There's a difference between a quick thing of like, my husband did something and it pissed me off and I can let it go versus something like this major event happened and I'm just going to ignore it. Like that is a totally different scenario. And that is not what we're encouraging. Little things, let it go. Major things, feel into them, get all those emotions going. And those emotions can be great learning opportunities too. So, one of the things that I do with my clients sometimes, if I notice that they're getting into emotions or they're not feeling emotions, I tell them to ask themselves a few things. So, first is what are the top 2 to 4 emotions that you're experiencing on a daily basis? Because this can be a clue if you're getting in your crap, right? If you're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I feel anger every single day. Oh, well, why is that? Like, what's going on in your life where you've got anger every single day? So, getting into that, okay, what are those emotions I'm getting into every single day? Jot it down. And then what are the 2 to 4 emotions I want to experience daily? Like joy and happiness are in the top for me. It might be something else for you, but if you're not getting there, again, this is work for you. And then write down 1 to 2 times when you let your emotions get the best of you and you were angry, upset, depressed, whatever, and come up with some strategies, which we're going to talk about, where you can shift those emotions, whether it's simply a choice or it's one of these tools we're going to talk about. But that is a powerful thing because a lot of times we're not even looking at our emotions, like we're not even paying attention. And when you can seriously jot down those emotions that you're going through on a daily basis, you're going to start to see some patterns.
Wow. I love that. I love that, Kira. And I know that we're asking you sometimes to jot things down, to write down. But to be honest with you, I mean, that is the awareness is the first step to healing anything. And then how are you going to aware if you're just not going to write it down or put it somewhere or really reflect on it? I
Yep.
mean, yes, pen and paper is great and we love that. However, it could also be a quick thing on your phone. All of us have, I mean, I don't know. I know that the iPhone has like the note section, but I'm sure Android has like another tool where you can, write yourself notes. So just take out your phone and then do that in case, you're busy and you don't have the time to sit down and journal. But it's really important to know that awareness is the very first step. And that's why we always, one of our tips is always to kind of like journal things out, to write things down, to reflect. So like we said, the emotions are stored, right? They need to be moved. They're not just going to stay stagnant, right? So we need to move them. And we're going to give you a few tips. I already talked about journaling. So journaling is one of them. And it could be as simple as, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Or just ask questions. Why am I feeling anger? If we are angry every day, why am I angry every day? Where is this coming from? Is this my emotion? Or is this an emotion I learned from somebody? Is this mine? Where is it coming from? Where is it stemming from? So sometimes just asking these questions can trigger the answer. It doesn't have to be right away, but it can be over time. So journaling, breath work, breathing, breathing. And that's something free, right? That you have, and you don't have to buy lungs or buy some breath. You'll just do it. Or even better, when you go to a breathwork class, because they will lead you into also somatic movement and how that breath can, get the emotions up, and then you can let them go with sound and movement as well. I've done some breathwork sessions and I really enjoy them.
Same.
Yoga, there are a lot of yoga poses just aimed for releasing emotions. So you can Google which ones, or if you fall, I mean, just doing yoga and the stretching, it's just moving your body and moving those emotions. But you can definitely look up specific yoga poses if you're too much into yoga. EFT tapping, that's my favorite. I do have the Tapping Solution app and I love it. I do it as much as I can. Today I did the tuning the chakras tapping meditation to align all of my chakras and to clear them. Massage, or what I love, is myofascial release. So they release the fascia. I've done that a few times and you do feel amazing. Not just the well-being amazing, your body feels good. Like I felt a little bit more flexible. Like I was able to move my joints better when I did that. Massage, myofascial release. Am I forgetting anything as far as somatic movement? I mean, dancing, moving your body. Anything that you get to move your body and to, I know that if you have a lot of anger, a good one is to punch a pillow. I mean, don't punch a person, please. But like expressing that. I do some screaming in the car to let go of rage as well.
I think that,
What
and
else?
it's tapping into
else?
what you need too.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is
Yeah.
we're huge fans of intuition. Like what do you feel like you need in that moment? And listen to it. You always have the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. So we gave you some of them. Feel free to try, or ask us the questions if you want to. But if you find yourself really angry, really getting upset or emotional over something, we definitely recommend one that's, again, free because it requires breathing. You put your hand over your heart, you hold your attention with gratitude, and you do the 60 seconds of box breathing. So 5 seconds in through your nose, you hold for 5 seconds, and then you let go for 5 seconds through your nose, and then you hold that letting go for 5 seconds. It's like a box. And again, you can also Google box breathing. But as a first step, I truly recommend going to a breathwork session or doing one online, because because if you have stored a lot of emotions, you definitely want to do something with a facilitator. Don't just like do it all by yourself. And then sometimes they have them online or in the community. And maybe we can interview one of my teachers, not teachers, sorry, facilitators that I go to. She does them online and in person.
Yeah.
So.
And I was doing the box breathing with you, but another thing I just didn't even think about
I
would
saw
be
you.
would be emotion code for those that emotion
Mm,
code can be a game changer where you're releasing some of those emotions. You got to find a practitioner. Although, I mean, the book Emotion Code, you can attempt to do it on your own. I haven't seen a lot of success with it, but that's another option too. And that's the thing, there's so many modalities. Our big thing is the awareness. Like, are you ignoring emotions, suppressing them, getting stuck in them? Like, what's happening and move from there and decide
numbing
what you
them,
yes.
numbing them. Let's not forget that we numb them with some
Yeah.
liquor
Yeah. Or other things. Yeah.
or other things. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I want to say about this is not a tip, guys, but it's something for insight is there's a thing called toxic positivity, right? And that's what we don't want. And I do see that sometimes where people will say, like, I'm happy, happy, happy. Everything's fine. It's going to be great. And it's like, that's not helpful either, because now you're just pushing away negative emotions. And again, they have to go somewhere. It's energy and motion. They're storing in organs and tissues and other places in the body then if you're not working through them. So we can't be positive all the time. That's not the goal. The goal is to
No.
feel our emotions and then to recognize when we're getting stuck in them. So like I start my day, and if I'm in a foul mood when I wake up, I have to ask myself, why is that the case? And I can choose now to move those emotions versus I'm just going to continue to ignore everything negative that ever happens to me and try to smile through it. That's not going to be helpful. Trust me.
Right.
Every,
And I did fall into that trap where, like,
yeah.
when I got on my spiritual journey, and then I was like,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, like negative emotions are bad. So a tip for you, don't label them as good or
Yeah.
bad, right? Don't give them meaning, don't give them anything. It's a negative emotion. Okay, just give it the name. Oh, I feel anger right now. I feel frustration. I feel blah, 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 fear, doubt, etc. And let's just and maybe it's helpful to love on it versus, like, beat it down.
Yeah. 100%. Well, and that every emotion has a purpose, right? And you said, I
Mhm.
love that. It's kind of like food. Stop labeling it as good or bad, because that creates a meaning, and we don't need a meaning behind these emotions. It just is what it is. They're helping us learn something. So feel them, allow them to move through you, but then decide, is this emotion serving me right now? And if it is something traumatic, then yeah, maybe that emotion really is serving you in the moment, but in the future, you can change that. So even the uncomfortable ones, anger, sadness, rage, whatever, they have a purpose. So allow them to be there. We're not labeling them, but then allow them to move.
Absolutely. Just like we say with food, listen to your body, listen to your
Mhm.
body here, and to your emotions.
Yeah.
They're here to serve you, right?
Yeah.
It's just like the symptoms that we've talked about in the past, right? They're here to serve you.
Yeah.
Another tip is, because sometimes I get it, sometimes it is harder to let go or to feel those negative emotions and to get out of them. I get it. It's not easy. It's not easy. I know, and we've done it, and we've done the work. And same, her and I, we still communicate and be like, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. Like, it's not gonna go away. You're a human being.
Yeah.
So what I really love, and I learned this from the teachings of Abraham Hicks,
Mhm.
it's find a better feeling thought, right? So
Yeah.
recognize the emotion that you're in. And if it's bothering you, like, oh my goodness, there's anxiety here, or there's fear, let's find a better feeling thought. So I'm going to give you some examples, but then of course you apply. And I will recommend that you read the book, and I'll list the name, because in the book, Abraham Hicks gives a lot of examples about different areas in life, etc. So you could relate to them or not. So, for example, let's say the negative thought is, what if everything goes wrong? Because you're feeling anxious about the future. What if everything goes wrong? I'm so scared. A better feeling thought could be, it's okay not to know everything. I've faced uncertainty before and found a way through it. Is
I
this
like
gonna,
that.
oh my goodness, magically take everything away? No, but it's a better feeling thought.
And that's the thing too that I think is important is like we don't go from I'm so scared to I feel amazing and you know what I mean? Like it has to be a
Yeah.
subtle. A subtle shift.
Like, I know. Oh, well, again, because we're still looking for the magic wand. So if anyone finds it, just send it our way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just got to be gradual. Absolutely. Another example could be when you don't feel like you're measuring up, you're comparing yourself. Let's say you're like, I'm not as good as everyone else, but we all fall through that trap.
Yep.
And a better feeling thought could be everyone has their strengths. I have things I'm good at too, and I'm growing at my own pace. My daughter always teases me. She always says, well, I wish you're able to do hair because I don't know how to do the braids and I don't know, like, you know, and she's a dancer, so sometimes they require braids. And I mean, finally, I got the bun together, right? And that's it. And then she's like, why can't you, blah, 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 why can't you be like so and so? Why can't you be like so and so? It's like, to be honest, because I have my own strengths, and hair and braiding is not one of them. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Anywho, the book that I recommend, other than The Body Keeps the Score, if you want to explore your emotions and better feeling thoughts, it's called The Astonishing Power of Emotions. Let Your Feelings Be Your Guide by Abraham Hicks.
You know what? Wow. I have not read that one, but now I'm adding it to my list. So you gave me something new.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody loves the teachings of, I love them. I mean, it could be something, I mean, it could be try reading it. I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought-provoking of it.
I'm always happy to add books to my list. Even if it doesn't resonate, there's got to be something in there I can take from it. And I love learning about emotions. So thank you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our takeaway today is pretty simple, right? Create the awareness. Again, look at your emotions, look at what you're getting into on a daily basis, decide if it's serving you. Because again, it boils down to choice. If you're in a foul mood every day, you know, with whatever emotions running through you, you're letting that be a choice. And you have the power to shift that into something better. And you've got some tools now, some simple ones, and you've also got tools for when you're not expressing them. So start taking action. You know, we're going to continue to say this, but yeah, the goal of the podcast is for you to learn new aspects of healing. And this is one of them. Yeah.
May I add something?
Yes, of course.
Also, there's no one that's going to come to save you. You are the one who's going to save yourself. So that's why we keep talking about there's no magic wand. It's just not going to appear. It is you making the different choices. So I really love what you said about you have the choice. You have the decision. Yes, it may not be the best, or, you know, you're like, but it is your choice to either harbor the anger or explore and see, is this even your emotions? Because sometimes I have emotions that are not even mine, and things that I've learned. So I just let them go and I say, those are not mine. They're not mine. Go back to where you came from. So, but it's a constant practice.
It is. It is. And it goes, I'm also going to throw in, it goes back to gratitude, one of our previous episodes too. If you can get into a state of gratitude, it's very easy to shift emotions. And I forgot to mention that earlier. Okay. All right. Well, if you like this episode, guys, please subscribe, share it with people that you think would benefit. We would also love reviews. This is a new podcast. This is only episode 5 for us. So any love you can give, we would highly appreciate it. And we will see you on the next episode.